We have a quorum, right?
Yep, you're all set.
All right. Good evening. We did the roll call as far as the quorum. We're going to skip to item 3, Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 4, opening remarks. If anybody has any, they can make them. Oh, here's this Derek.
Garish, how are you, everybody?
Good.
Just exited a policy meeting, so I apologize for my tardiness. Just wanted to, again, thank everybody for all their hard work. We've had a few meetings in the last few weeks with our safety and security folks. We had a meeting last week about the ribbon cutting ceremony, which I'm sure we will speak to at some point. And over April vacation, what we did, we worked with Mr. Dolan and John Feely and Alyssa from CHA, and we videoed a virtual tour of the building. I know that Alyssa is in the editing phase of that currently. And once complete, that will be provided to our communications subcommittee, and that will be added to the webpage for the communication subcommittee group. So I just want to thank Alyssa and John Feely and everyone for getting us into the building so that we can provide that information to all of our stakeholders and our communities at large, and all the taxpayers and folks that voted to support this project. It's very exciting when you go inside, even within a week's time, how much progress has been made. And I can't say enough about CHA and RDA, and again, our relationship with Bacon over time. We continue to meet every Tuesday at 1 o'clock with updates. And Melissa and I, are pretty much in contact at this point, on a daily, which is good. And she's always kind of keeping us in the loop. And just want to really thank to all of our safety officials in our Bridgewater Police Department. They're second to none. And anytime we call and we need, a detail, for the pole install or whatever it may be, even if it's like kind of dropped on us, and it's no fault of CHA, Bacon, or RDA. It's just when folks and vendors can come out to do things, we call up our police department and through dispatch or through Carl McDermott, and we get the detail in place. So really, really appreciative of all of them, and appreciative of all of you, which I believe are now on meeting 68, I think is what I announced at the last school committee meeting. So thank you for all your volunteerism and continued hard work.
All right, great. Thank you. Item 5, approval of previous meeting minutes, the April 11th meeting. Does anybody want to make a motion?
Sure, I'll make the motion to approve.
Garish, I believe there's an error in the minutes, if I remember correctly, unless I missed it. I don't think Mrs. Holbrook was at the last meeting.
I actually emailed Josh and he sent me the corrected minutes. So you're right, Mr. Dolan, I was not there. So that has been updated.
Right. All right, then I'll second the motion that Mr. Lindy made.
All right, any further discussion? All right, we'll do the roll.
John,
Yes.
Michael, Michael,
Yes.
Lil,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Joe.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Thank you. Item 6, OPM update. Going to turn it over to Alyssa.
I'll share my screen. Alrighty, get started on the progress update first. The project is currently on schedule. We did have one lost time incident, which I think I discussed last month, where one of the workers cut their hand, went and got stitches, and was immediately back at work the next day. But those few hours do count as a lost time incident. We're continuing throughout the building with finishes. We're doing drywall, painting, flooring, casework, and tile. So a lot of changes going throughout the building. All of the acoustical ceiling grid is up. We're finalizing that overhead work. And so that tile, all the outer cuts have been made, and we'll have inspections before we flood the ceilings. We're continuing with our window, curtain wall, skylight, and trim work on the exterior. We're also working on those fiber cement panels and those ACM panels and trim. We're continuing the elevator install and building out the electric rooms. And then we're very busy with site work, with curbing, fencing, sidewalks. We're excavating for the playground features. So that work is going to start to come to fruition. Pretty soon, we'll be installing playground equipment this month, which I'll get to in the 3-week look ahead. And then we had a meeting on Friday, which Mike Dolan can update you in his communications update about the tour and the ribbon cutting that we have planned. And then we're continuing our normal meetings, our safety walkthroughs, all the reports being uploaded to Procore. And then we're going through finalizing all of the furniture, IT, and then we are starting to have commissioning meetings for startup and testing. So those meetings are going to begin this month and go all the way until substantial completion, at which point we'll have testing for the owner, demonstration for the owner, training, which will have the groups attend for that. So a lot of big milestones coming up in terms of getting permanent power this month. And we're also working on the Wally Kruger Way. So we're milling and paving this week there. So I'll bring up under new business the update that's happening over there. So I will jump into some of the progress photos that we've got. So you see the exterior work continuing with the storefront and curtain walls. We're continuing those finishes. So we have a lot of lovely accent walls that match the flooring. So right now all the flooring is has been inspected and covered. So anything that's been installed to this point, you can't really see it, but we did catch some photos before it was covered. So that's being protected. But you can see here the accent colors, which is a nice touch. So as I mentioned, we're continuing those finishes, continuing that flooring. So that's a lot of the work that's going on the interior, besides the millwork and the plumbing fixtures going in. So we have the bathroom partitions being installed here, and then just continuing that overhead work, putting in the grid, and some of the tile cuts have been going in. And we have our first owner vendor in the building now. Oakers is starting their AV cabling above the grid. We're continuing that sidewalk work on the exterior. So those are going in. We poured some sidewalks this week. So you might have seen if you've driven by that our trailers have moved over for that work to take place. And then on the right here, you can see the brick veneer. It's been completed, washed down, inspected. So it's really starting to come together. Once we finalize some of the storefront and curtain wall, we'll be testing again for just to make sure that there's no moisture going into the building. And they'll test the whole assembly at that point with air and water to make sure that there's no way for it to get in. So that's upcoming, should be scheduled in about a month. So just jumping into kind of the work that's going on and the work that's upcoming, just continuing that site work, prepping and forming for those sidewalks and site pads, all of the site improvement foundations, those are being formed and poured. We're installing toilet accessories at this point, and then finishing up the roof edge metal and the roof pavers. The electrician is building out those electric rooms, installing light fixtures and devices, the lighting canopy kits and devices in the grid, and then that theatrical lighting. So the cafetorium is looking very different nowadays. It's coming along. We're wiring up the HVAC rooftop units and pulling feeders. And then the plumber is installing fixtures and finishes throughout the toilet rooms and classrooms, and then finalizing that main backflow valves and water heater piping. As far as the mechanical work, we're finishing up those HVAC controls wiring, the radiant ceiling panels, the AC splits, and displacement diffusers. And then continuing the sprinkler work in the mechanical room. As far as the carpenter, they're taping the skylights, corridors, frames, and then finalizing boarding and taping the lobby, kitchen, and toilet room areas. The terrazzo is going in the corridors and the main lobby, and then we're continuing interior caulking at the fixtures and through wall flashing at the canopies. So the outside classroom rails are going in, and then I'll go to the next one. We're continuing the sunshades and exterior storefronts, and then the window storefronts and curtain wall trim and caulking. Continuing to paint throughout the building, painting the stage ceiling, so that's coming along, and then just continuing that grid like we talked about in the ceiling. On the exterior, the fiber cement siding, the panels, the skylights, those are going in. And then as far as interior finishes, just continuing that corridor tile, and then other various tile throughout the building. We're finalizing all the millwork, so that's all going in. We're putting millwork trim into the gym, and then continuing that rubber floor tile at the ground floor and at the first floor. Continuing that exterior work, prepping for sidewalks, installing curbs, excavating for the playground features, and then screening the loam. The elevator sub continues to install. The fence is going in with the guardrails, so the site's looking really good. And then we're going to start installing playground equipment, so that is upcoming. And then in the gym, we're installing basketball backboards and equipment this week, and then other interior finishes like marker boards. We're continuing to rake and seed later this month, and then we are completing the Wally Kruger Way Road milling and paving this week. So we've been in constant communication with the Senior Center and the Conan Center so that they have access to the road. We're only doing one side at a time so that traffic can flow in and out. So they've been actually great to work with, very cooperative and very helpful to us during this process. Does anyone have any questions on the 3-week look ahead?
I don't see any.
Great. So I'll just jump into some of the major milestones that we are tracking. So we are awaiting National Grid to return to the site the week of May 23rd. Once we achieve permanent power, we will start the commissioning process with CEFs. So they were contracted by the MSBA to do all the commissioning work. So we have a schedule set of regular meetings with the subcontractors and the commissioning agent and ourselves and Bacon, of course. And so that startup and testing will take place once we start firing up all the units. And so we're still tracking for that substantial completion at July 8th, and that's pending the permanent power that we're getting this month. We scheduled furniture installation for mid-July. So I've received ship dates for all of the furniture at this point. We follow up with WB Mason just about every week at this point to make sure that we're still in the production slot and we're still getting our correct shipping dates for the move-in. And they've been really great to work with as well, updating us that the latest stuff is coming in June. So right now, we want them to start installing mid-July. And so we're going to give ourselves a few weeks to get that done, do any punch list items. Anything that arrived damaged or broken will give us some time to reorder that. And so we do have some owner vendors in the building now. Like I mentioned, we have Ockers running cable above the ceilings. We will also have the fiber run once the racks are installed. But as far as installing things like computers, that wouldn't happen until we have furniture, because you would need a space to set the computer on. So some items like that are going to be after substantial completion, but it doesn't mean we won't have owner vendors coordinating with us before we get substantial completion. So when that happens, CHA is managing the manpower counts of those vendors, making sure that they're not doing any damage or trashing the place. And we coordinated with RD on that about the expectations of them keeping the building clean and cleaning up after themselves and making sure that they're checking in with us and coordinating under us. So that work has been successful. They've been on site for a week or a little over a week now at this point. So our official occupancy and move is scheduled to be the week of August 22nd. So at this point, we're expecting punch list to be well on its way of being completed. There may be some residual items that have to get addressed, and we'll know that when we get to it with the punch list. So that would mean that any contract work would have already been completed. But if there was something that needed to be patched or painted, or somebody dinged the wall when they were installing something, we watch very closely for those things, and we may have vendors in there. It could be anything from troubleshooting an HVAC unit to, like I said, patching or painting. So we're planning for the movers to be there that week. So everyone's stuff will be packed and labeled, and it will be delivered exactly to the room where it's labeled to go. So that's planned for the week of August 22nd. We're planning for the Taxpayer Tour to be on Saturday, August 27th. We had our coordination meeting on Friday, which again, Mike Dolan will talk a little bit more about because he's spearheading that. And then we're tracking the first day of school. And then shortly after, the official ribbon cutting ceremony, which will be invitation for everyone. So that's September 10th on a Saturday. So those are the milestones that we are tracking. It's a lot of moving parts now, but we're continuing to track and coordinate, and these are the dates that we are planning for. So the next two building committee meetings are June 13th and July 11th, potentially the second Monday of the month. So I don't know if there's any issues with those dates, but for now, that's what we are tracking. Just move on. Continuing to track that budget. So right now, we are finalizing a number of FF&E expenses. We had the teachers and staff fill out their smallwares. Well, the teacher staff, kitchen staff, custodial, nurses, everyone had a chance to fill out the spreadsheet, and that's been sent to the interior designer, OSO. So I've been discussing with her on, various orders that need to be made, where she has to go out and find those 3 competitive numbers, and finally get those numbers back and execute those orders. So once we have, those costs decided, we will bring those to you guys and present that so it's organized and so it makes sense to do that. But it was a a big push for, everyone to get those spreadsheets in before the April vacation. They did a great job filling everything out and getting those over to us through Excel. So that was a nice organized effort. So I think Derek and Dennis and everyone else who helped with that effort. So we're continuing to track on budget at this point. We're at $597,000 of contingency used, with still 3.1 million left. So when we do present those FF&E budgets numbers, we will track that against that 3.1. And so we'll map all of that out and make sure that you guys have time to digest those numbers and to review them for the next time. And then just continuing on with our MSBA ProPays. So we're up to date with those. MSBA has 29 and 30 that they're processing and reviewing. So that's been going. Is there any other questions on the overall update? I know there's a few other things we need to touch on tonight, but.
John, if I,
Oh, go ahead.
no, go ahead, Pat.
I just had a question about the FF&E. Do we expect a big change order for cost on that?
Yeah, so it wouldn't be a change order, it would be a contingency because we do have set limit of what we can spend on the FF&E. But I know we discussed last meeting that we are tracking to overspend right now just due to the nature of the supply chain and things like that. So that's what we're planning to present, to have the accurate numbers, both from Michael Shantz, who's working with us on the IT level, and then Angela from the interior designer.
Okay, thank you.
John, if I could.
Sure.
Alyssa, the 3-month look ahead schedule. Any idea when we'll get that?
The remaining work? You mean like the remaining work, the master schedule?
Master schedule, sorry, the
Yes.
update.
Yep. So we requested that from Rick Reuter, the project manager, and he is working on that right now. He's just trying to finalize a few things. But he is getting that over to us so we can review and, make sure that it's actually going to fit.
Okay, thank you.
I had one item, Alyssa, to bring up now, but maybe we defer it to the next meeting item agenda. But, a meeting or two ago, we talked about perhaps scheduling some interim meetings to better position ourselves in case we needed to vote on anything that was time sensitive. So I don't know if you want to put up the schedule and milestones that you had.
Sure.
And just, if we just want to talk through, if we want to do that, I'm thinking if they're going to occur in the summer, the sooner we let everybody know or ask if they're going to be available, the better. But I just wanted to bring that topic up. Are you seeing the need? Do you think there's a value to doing it? Say go into a 2-week schedule for the last 2 months or something like that, or if you think it's more important in June. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, if we want to set a date and then decide, the week before whether we continue to meet or not, that could be good to have it set that way in case we need it or if we have to make any difficult decisions. Something I wanted to touch on today was a change order that we got today that we anticipated there may be some costs associated with the Wally Kruger Way work. So again, that was pretty timely because we had the meeting set, and we can talk about that under new business. But for things like that, where we may have, an emergency change order or something like that, yeah, we could set an additional date if we want to.
Okay. Well, maybe we can revisit when we get to that item on the agenda. I just wanted to get everybody thinking about that. And, this being May. If we want to double up starting in June, we should do it this meeting.
Right.
Okay. Any more questions or any discussion on the OPM update?
John, I had a question. This is Lisa for Alyssa.
Yeah.
We have a lot of questions about the move. We haven't received labels or enough boxes yet. So we didn't know when we would be getting those labels.
Yeah, so we were going to try to target possibly a professional development day to have a recap of what would happen that week. So I'll get with Derek on that if we can kind of tail end one of those meetings and have.
Our last one is on next Wednesday. We have half a day.
Okay, so I will reach out to Sterling to see if they're available that day.
Because we had
We
questions.
also talked about possibly a faculty meeting too, if the professional development day didn't work either, Lisa.
Okay. But I know that gym teachers were wondering about their equipment, the size of it, getting it over there. And we had questions. We have some outsized boxes and,
Sure.
items that won't fit in those boxes, but that would be great.
Yeah.
Thank
You
you.
know, just so you know, Lisa, we were going to do an assessment, myself and Tom Kilgore, with the phys ed folks too,
Okay.
because they did get some of that small wares money, and we don't want to bring damaged equipment, and that some of that equipment is kind of on the older side and is used for our sports camps and the rest. So
Okay.
there might be some stuff that's not even going to kind of make it over there, but we'll do that assessment with the phys ed folks.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you.
You got it.
All right. Well, we can move on to the designer update then, item 7.
Hello, everyone. Can you see me, hear me? Okay. So I sent out a memo on Saturday, which Alyssa forwarded. It's the same kind of format. We have a bunch of change orders that I can go through if the committee wishes. And then we have kind of an update on the plaque, the dedication plaque. And it wasn't part of the memo, but Dennis and I had been, and Derek was copied, had some back and forth on the cistern that's going to be part of the playground. So I figured I'd update you on that. I'm hoping the change orders were straightforward and understandable, but as I said, I'm happy to go through them if anyone wants a mental image of them.
Gene, how about item 1?
Sure, let me,
It starts out like it's an ad because you're moving it from one budget to another. So I just thought you would
sure.
explain that maybe in more
Yeah.
detail.
I mean, I'm happy to explain them all, just if people see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So this is the second floor, the upper floor, right? And the lobby is here with the bridge across the lobby. I keep trying to make these things bigger. I'm sorry, I don't know how to do that. So this is the media center in here, and you get to it, you come up the stair, and there's a door right here, and you kind of come in, and we have all these wonderful things happening. There's a counter that runs along the corridor wall, and I really wish I could make it bigger. I'm sorry, I should have figured that out. And as you can see, we didn't, well, anyway, what we want to do is have a circulation desk right here, when people come in and out, and the librarian is right there at the door. And we were going to purchase that during FF&E. But then when we saw color chips, and then frankly, we couldn't identify anything out of the furnishings budget that mostly that didn't fit in with the built-in, which is natural finish wood. We said, why don't we build it as part of the millwork, which is, you know, all the bookcases and the cabinets and everything that's in the classrooms. So we did get a price. What we said is, why don't you give us you know, we designed a desk that came out and then over. So it's kind of like an L shape, and it would like come right in next to this counter here, right at the entrance. And there's an add to Bacon. So we're not buying it out of FF&E, out of, you know, the furnishings budget, but Bacon, there's an add of about $17,000 to do those two pieces. They're both on wheels. They're both set up for computers and a book drop and all that stuff. So, you know, it is an add to the contract, but it's kind of moving it from one pot to another. I'm going to be honest. I think this is more out of Bacon than if we could have just, you know, plunked a desk and a table in there. But I think it's going to integrate with the, you know, all the beautiful woodwork in the building a lot better.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I mean, I can roll through the other ones. People just tell me to stop if you want me to.
Yeah, I mean, I was just interested in that one.
Okay.
I don't know if does anybody else want Jean to go through?
Jean, I just have a question on the number 4.
Okay, yep.
Did we change the copper wire to aluminum, the aluminum wiring due to the cost? Is that the reason? And does it affect it in any way, shape, or form?
Yeah, it definitely doesn't affect the operability of it.
Okay.
I wasn't there when it came up, Lil, and John, I assume you were.
Yeah,
Is this something the electrician just brought up as a?
it was a timing thing that they were having some trouble with the copper. And they said, you know, we know it's allowed. We're willing to give a credit for it. If there's something we can do, it's going to facilitate us getting this gear up and running, waiting for the transformer. So that when the transformer does show up, we are definitely ready. So that was their thought process.
Okay, thank you, John.
You know, John Garris, do you have anything to add to that, given your electrical engineer?
Yeah, it's a common thing in the market right now for that reason. And there's really no performance change.
So that was a nice credit, $12,600. Yeah. Otherwise, hopefully the other ones were fairly straightforward. We did make a couple of aesthetic calls, I'll say. But, you know, we felt like they were pretty short money, given you know, the building's going to be around for 50 to 100 years. I think when Steve saw the red accent paint that was going up, it's like, oh, we picked the wrong color. So we repainted 5 or 6 walls. But that was pretty short money. That was a couple $1,000s. And then you have these big, they're called displacement air grills. This is a classroom that we just opened up in North Shore, I don't know, a year ago or less. So I don't know if you remember, but each classroom has these 2 of these big grills that dump in a large volume of air, and they're so big because they want the air to come in at a slow rate. If they were all down same amount of air in a little nozzle, you know, it'd be like a fire hose. And there was a couple different ways which were legitimate that you could read our spec. And this is how we were reading it, that it's just a nice, really tight, beautiful joint. And, you know, another way it could have been read. So we really couldn't, we really kind of had to give the contractor, everyone's been so good, we gave them the benefit of the doubt, but there would have been like a metal frame around this thing. So that was about $9,000. And we just said, look, again, you know, people are going to be in this building for 50+ years, and let's make the thing look as beautiful as possible. So we have this, just this real nice, clean joint around the diffuser. So, and there were a couple other miscellaneous ones in the kit. I'll just roll through them. So in the kitchen, look, I figured out how to make it bigger. We had a washer dryer.
Right there. We got it.
Yeah, it's like right here. It's a stacking washer dryer, and again, and both are legitimate, believe me, but it wasn't worth the argument. Our plumbing engineers said, hey, this thing can, you know, drain, and the piping was set up to go under the slab and get into a waste line. And the plumbing inspector, you know, had a different interpretation of that. And if we had followed the plumbing inspectors, we would have been chopping up the floor and digging down 6 feet to get the waste line. So John came up with a solution that the plumbing inspector agreed with, of just taking the waste for this and connecting it above the slab into the waste line for the sink. I kind of forget how much that was. That was about, it turned out to be about $11,000, but it was, you know, at least half as expensive as if we had to dig up the slab. The other one, oh, there's a hand sink that we have here in front of the window. I guess this was an aesthetic call we made too, just because people could from the bus drop off and, you know, kind of the playground side, look through the window and see the rough plumbing behind the sink. With this was fairly inexpensive. It was like $2,500 to put a stainless steel skirt behind it. So when you look in the window, you're just seeing, you know, a piece of stainless steel instead of a bunch of rough plumbing. And then these vertical fans in the lobby, we had set them up that they had a bracket at the top and the bottom, and they would hold them up, but the manufacturer, you know, had a different opinion as far as, you know, everyone's so conservative, which is fine, about their warranties and stuff. So we ended up having to buy additional brackets just to maintain the warranty. And unfortunately, that was about $17,000 also. I think that's about everything. So.
Any questions on those? All right, Gene, keep going.
All right, John, you know, Alyssa already mentioned it, but it seems like there's another one out on Wally Kruger, but we'll bring that up in new business. So we had shown an example of a dedication plaque last meeting, and we had a whole bunch of, it was from a different project, and it had all these committees and all these names. And you all had said, hey, Mike and Lil, why don't you form your own little subcommittee and you know, pursue the idea that the plaque is more about George Mitchell than it is about you know, all the committees in town and this and that. So they actually had suggested this wording, and Lil, I can either read it or maybe you all saw it because it was in the memo, but there's a little paragraph about George Mitchell, which is very, very nice. Obviously his name is up here, and the dedication date, July 2022. Then a thank you to the school building committee, the school committee, district, town officials, and citizens. A little bit of acknowledgement to the Mass School Building Authority, and then kind of the OPM, the architect, and the construction manager. So they had sent it through with this, with the town seal, which is fine. We looked at another version where we took a portrait that we found of George, and, you know, we figured this, you know, this is another option, but maybe it tied in the name of the school, the person to the text. And I don't want to speak for Lil or Michael, but at some point soon, we want to kind of get feedback and get something off to Bacon. So Lil, or Michael, I don't know if you guys want to talk about it. I know you're going to reach out to George's widow.
I actually, thanks, Jean. I actually did reach out to Beverly and she loved the write-up. She thought it captured George in his teaching very well. I personally love the picture of George to be placed there instead of the town seal. One thing I noticed, or Dennis noticed for me, down below where it says thank you to the Bridgewater School Building Committee, the Bridgewater Rainham School Committee, the C should be uppercase. It is in what you sent us, but
Right.
I just wanted to be sure that you weren't going forward with this with that lowercase c.
Yes, thank you. We would never go forward with this until the committee blessed it. But
Okay,
so
thank you. Yes, but Beverly was sharing it with her, with George's children also, and was going to get back to me. But she said she didn't see any problem whatsoever and was very excited about it.
I really like it with the photograph also, or, now maybe this would be in some sort of relief, right? But I think it, it ties the name, the person and who they are, just all together. I think it's kind of cool.
Mr. Garish,
Yes.
through you to Jean, and then and actually to Mr. Dolan and Mrs. Holbrook. To that point, Mrs. Holbrook, with the capital C on committee, should it be the Bridgewater Rainham Regional School Committee?
Oh, yes. I mean, should it be? I haven't heard anyone say yes.
Yes.
Yes, it should be.
So I like it. I
do too. I think it's great.
It's pretty much what I had in mind. I mean, I couldn't put this together, but this is what I had envisioned when I thought of, commemorating the building and George Mitchell. So do we got to decide what we want to do? In other words, there was the town seal, a photograph of George, or a relief? Are those the three choices, or
I'm not to be honest, I've never done one with a photograph. We just didn't. I think it would be more like a relief,
Okay.
to be honest.
So is there anything the committee needs to do in terms? I mean, maybe I should ask Lil. So we're waiting for formal approval or blessing from.
Well, yeah, you'd have to do a shower relief. You wouldn't want to do it too deep, but the shower.
Yes, I'll just reach out once again to Beverly just to be sure her the kids don't have any problem with it. But like I said, she thought it was wonderful.
Better with the relief, I believe. We can send it off to the sign.
And then is that the selected picture? Okay, great.
John,
Yes.
could I just ask, just to mention a few things?
Sure.
So John, I think at the last meeting, I was sort of under the impression that the committee as a whole was discussing a two-plaque concept. When I brought the idea back of just the plaque as presented here, there's strong pushback from the council in the town of Bridgewater that the traditional sort of construction plaque would not be in existence. So I know that you've mentioned district and town officials, but I don't know that the town of Bridgewater is happy with that. So I just wanted to throw that out. I do like this. this concept that you have here in terms of a dedication, but in terms of recognizing the committee's work and some of the members. And I know that gets complicated because some people have jumped on and off. I just wanted to throw that out there for a discussion. I did not know that we were at the point that we're deciding on a one plaque concept. Beyond that, I kind of have an issue if we're going to do the one plaque concept that we're highlighting the project manager, architect, and construction managers rather than, size 3 font for the rest of the committee members that have been in this process. So I'd like to see that reversed if that's this plaque.
We can definitely do another version.
What about the two versions, though? Maybe we should talk about that a little bit more.
Well,
Yeah.
John, I would prefer that actually, so that if we're going to make this a dedication, to me, it seems like you highlight just George Mitchell in and of himself. And I kind of even visualize that as you walk in the door, or maybe there's a more appropriate space somewhere in the school where it's an actual dedication to George Mitchell, and your traditional sort of template boilerplate construction plaque maybe is in the foyer when you first come in, but some more dedicated area that might be a better spot somewhere in the school to George Mitchell. I don't want to minimize the importance of dedicating it to him, but when I brought the idea back, I know that I talked to Michael Dutton and he just was not in favor of it.
Yeah, this is because I had that in somehow in our mind also too. So we did, there is a place for a second plaque. There's other side. Anyway, right here. So like in the vestibule, there's
number one has to move over to the
I
other
understand. So in the vestibule, there's wall space for, maybe that's the traditional one. And maybe, where all the kids and everything is, maybe this is the George Mitchell one. So if you did want to go two, John is saying that, obviously the second plaque would be an extra, so he'll get some, he and CHA can get some pricing. I don't know if it's in the range of $5,000 or whatever it is, but we did have that in mind too. And I can also pull up the plaque that we had for you guys last time, which had a bunch of committee names on it.
Does that? Can I ask you a question since you chaired the Academy building? Where's the Academy building?
I don't remember talking about an Academy building plaque.
I don't think there.
I'm not sure there is one, Michael.
Prison, and that's sort of my point. So I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. And I'm just throwing this up. So if you did want to do a second plaque with the town seal and the name of the project and whatever committees, that's a template, could be something like that.
So if we do this, what is the town council thinking on how we develop the list of names, since this is a committee that's been in business for 7 years?
And John, maybe that's a good discussion that, that's something that I can push back on if there's not support for sort of this two plaque concept, because I don't know how that's sort of the next step, right? That's a big problem.
Right.
And maybe you just go back to just listing on a standard plaque like this, the Bridgewater Town Council, I don't know. I'd have to put some thought into it, I guess. I'd say that as far as the plaque goes, I don't even care if my name is on it. I'm just saying what the feedback was when we were discussing, and I don't even know how it came up about the dedication and the sign. So
sure, I feel the same way. I just want to manage the understand the
Sure.
expectation, right?
Sure.
And the other thing, just if I could throw in, it's probably critical that the George Mitchell commemorative plaque gets in place for the dedication, but
Totally.
if it takes longer on this because of just the formality of approving it and, figuring out what we really want to do if we do it, I would be open to that. I don't know how the rest of the committee feels.
So it seems to me that if we decide that in order to get this plaque started, we could simply carve off that bottom piece, right? Because the bottom language, and that is the reference to all of the committees, the architect and construction manager, because if I was to follow Michael Dolan's lead on why even have a plaque, then there's no necessity for that language to be on the dedication to George Mitchell's plaque. If there's strong feeling that people want to recognize the construction manager, architect, and the various committees, then you're talking about putting up a second plaque. But in order to get this started, that decision has to happen, right? If you need this done and mounted in time for the dedication.
So if I could, Matt, I don't want to counterpoint, but so if we decide not to do a second plaque and it's not there at all, how is the council going to feel about that?
I don't know.
I'm not trying to be difficult.
Yeah, I don't have answers. I just wanted to point it up because I was asked to bring it up on several different times. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And until tonight, I kind of thought that, okay, we're still talking about sort of a dual plaque strategy here. But if we're down to one, I don't necessarily have the answers. I can't say that I do. Is anyone, it looks like Mark's got his hand up. Someone else help.
Yeah, John, I was also under the impression that we were considering the two plaque concept, and pretty much every building project I've ever seen has people's names on it. You guys have been here for 70 meetings. I've only been here for 35, but I think there was a lot of work that went into it. And the people, the architect, all of those folks, they're all paid to do this. The rest of everybody else is given volunteer work. So I'm strongly in support of that.
Okay. So maybe we could back into this a little bit. I don't know if it's John or Jean. What's the critical path for, if we go with the one plaque with honoring George, when do we have to make a final decision and have the final approved proof or what have you? Is that the next meeting, or do we have to act on it tonight?
Well, John was saying June 1st. I know your June meeting. I mean, maybe this is one of the ones where you do have to have another meeting in, two in a month. Because I think your June meeting you said was what, the 13th?
13th, yeah.
Is that getting too late?
Not if you want it for July.
Well, they want it for August,
I
probably.
mean, it's going to take 6 weeks to produce from the day we approve it, minimum.
So if I could, I would push that George's plaque be installed no later than the 1st of September.
Okay, so what I'll do is I'm going to take that George Mitchell plaque without changing anything and get it priced, and make sure they know that whatever needs to be done to get it installed before September 1st, that's what we need to do. So I'll just tell the contractor that.
But that's just pricing. That's not approving. That's not
Right.
approving the layout.
It'll give us the idea of the order of magnitude and what it takes to get it installed before September 1st, produced and installed. So that means they got to pay what, $300-400 to get it pushed up in the line somewhere. That'll be included in it. So. Yep.
So it does sound like June 13th. Well, if we had a sense of the committee, to be honest, if you think you want to go with two plaques, it doesn't seem like a lot of money in the big picture if it's $5,000 or whatever it's going to be. But we could focus. You could send feedback to us sometime in the next week or two about who you think you'd like on this. And we could certainly come to the 13th with a traditional one. And then we could also clean up wherever the heck it is. I'm sorry. We could clean up this one and just strip all this out of here. And maybe the font size changes, or maybe, you know, whatever, so that it fills up the proper space. So I guess what I'm saying is if we get some feedback by email in the next couple of weeks, we could come in on the 13th with a traditional one and a George Mitchell one, and hopefully have nailed them so that we could issue it to Bacon. Oh, and meanwhile, John would come to your meeting on the 13th saying, hey, the order of magnitude on this thing, or the, you know, is whatever it is.
Yeah, we own one. We own the traditional. So if you go with the 2-plaque method, the George Mitchell dedication one is all extra. If you just go with the 1 plaque, the George Mitchell, then the cost is the delta between the traditional and the dedication. So not that it's big money either way, but it's just, that's the layout of the pricing scenario.
I totally understand, John. I would just say that, you know, at least for me, I'm in favor of George Mitchell for sure going ahead with just the plaque with his dedication information on it, and going with the traditional plaque at the foyer door as indicated on the map. What detail you get into and who meets the criteria and how that's labeled. I think really for me, just having George Mitchell stand alone on its own, and then the separate plaque, I just think that there's people that, you know, in terms of committees or groups or individuals that, you know, want to see that traditional dedication, at least from what I'm hearing. With that, I'm good.
I'll start this tomorrow with the sign guy and get his input in terms of availability, time frame, blah, 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 but just the standard rigmarole, I'll get it done. So I'll talk to Gene and make sure he understands exactly what we're up to.
And whether you guys end up authorizing the traditional one, June 13th, it would be, you know, it'd be nice if you do have the opportunity to send us who you think would be on it, and then I would be able to, where the heck is it? I'd be, you know, we'd be able to lay one out and show it to you at least, whether you go for it or not.
Jean, this is Lisa. Also on the George Mitchell one, there needs to be a comma after the word Bridgewater.
Sorry.
After
Good.
Bridgewater, there needs to be a comma.
The main title.
Oh, the main title. Oh,
Main title.
all right. Okay.
So based on the discussion, I'm thinking we should take a vote on the single dedication plaque approach or the dual approach, just so we all know, you know, what we're gonna go off and do, right?
Yeah.
And then again, I'm thinking that I'll say the traditional building construction plaque 2, let's just say the non-George plaque. That one to me, just, we have more time to work it out, especially since, you know, the town council is interested in how that reads, which is fine. It just takes a little bit more calendar time to make it happen. So, you know, my thought is if someone were to, you know, we can discuss it further, certainly, but if someone were to make a motion to go with the 2 plaque approach, with the idea that we want to have RDA do the research so that we can that they can prepare us to take a vote on a final George Mitchell plaque on the 13th. I think that would probably be the best approach to accommodate everybody's thinking right now. That's just my thought.
John, I'll be happy to make that motion that we adopt the dual plaque approach.
Okay, Matt Rushton will second that.
Okay, any discussion?
This is Mike again. I just want to reiterate that there isn't one in the Academy building, so precedent has been set by that building. And considering that building was just done 4 years ago now, we have a precedent in town. And it's interesting that some folks are upset about it now, but not then.
And John, if I may, I'm struggling with the fact of where you're cutting off the people for the school building committee, as well as the school committee. Like some of the existing members on the school committee have only been on for a couple of weeks. Do we put them on? But what about the people who started 7 years ago? I'm struggling with the fact that that's going to be a huge list. And ultimately, someone's going to get left off and feelings are going to be hurt. There were people that were off the committee after the 3rd meeting, the 5th meeting, the 12th meeting. Who's keeping track of all of that? And do their names are they placed on there, even though that they have not seen the majority of the project through, nor did they help, nothing for nothing, with the passing of the school?
Yeah.
I guess that's what I'm really struggling with right now.
Yeah, Lil, could I just offer that? So I just wanted to, I'm playing tennis here with Mr. Dolan, but there is a big difference. This is a regional project with a number of, not only the town council, but the regional school committee. You have a separate building committee. So it is a little bit different than the academy building, but I'll move on from that. Lil, you have a great point, and I don't know that we can make everybody happy in this. I still would like to see, though, that George Mitchell's dedication plaque stand alone on its own with no other mention. I'm happy to think about a second plaque that just sort of, even like George Mitchell, maybe just puts all of the effort and work by the individual committees in a paragraph form of a statement rather than a list of people, because you're right. I mean, it's going to be virtually impossible, looking how far back this process started, to recognize every person, and people will be upset. They're upset already, and the plaque is, we haven't even decided whether we're going to put a plaque up or not. So you might have a great idea in terms of like your comments about, we make it more generic, less individualistic in terms of that plaque, but just sort of something dedicated, construction, architects, the committees that were involved, and then leave George Mitchell sort of stand alone with just his information on it inside the school. And how about that as a compromise?
Mm-hmm. I'd feel more comfortable with that. And nothing for nothing, Matt. I've been on it since day one, and I really could care less whether my name is on that plaque or not. I don't need that type of recognition.
Yeah, well, as I offered, I didn't, even in the discussion is so awkward to bring up, but I was volunteering to keep my name off of it. Just to say, this is, really a feeling that I'm getting in comments from the town and from the council. But I think that we have a good argument in terms of how far back do you go back, and where we can't list 100 people on a plaque that have come in and out of the committee. So I just keep that open for discussion. If we went with the two, that we could find some other generic approach to recognize people.
I'm more comfortable with that, having that generic approach, Matt, and I thank you for that.
I hate to volunteer people, but I think that's a great idea also. And it was really nice when Lil and Michael forwarded the text that they thought was appropriate for George. So I don't know if anyone wants to take a shot at the text that we could put on this traditional plaque, but I just feel like if you see it on June 13th, it might help bring the thing to conclusion. or, we'd come back a couple weeks after that, but,
Well, the motion really just sets us on a path to accept that we're gonna have two plaques, right? We've had one presented for the George Mitchell plaque. The other one is, it's just an idea right now, so we have calendar time, and again, in my opinion, to work out the details. So I don't know if it's important, if it's essential to establish how we're gonna figure out what to do on the plaque number 2 as part of this vote. Or if we just wanna, take care of that as our normal business after we take the vote.
John, I think if we just took the vote on 1 or 2 plaques, and then if 2 prevails, I'm happy to work with Lil and Michael on some draft language for that second plaque.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. Any other discussion? I can't really see everybody the way my screen is right now. If anybody has their hand up or anything.
All right, John, it's Pat.
Hi, Pat.
So I guess I'm confused. If we're not gonna list names, then why are we doing a second plaque? You know what I mean? It just seems ridiculous. We can accomplish that just the way they have it. If we want to change fonts, we can change fonts, but if we're going to do a second plaque, you might as well list names. It's going to be very difficult, but I think we have to ask Michael Dutton for a list of everybody that served in the committee and everybody that's been on the school committee, and then you do a second plaque. But the point of a second plaque doesn't seem logical if we're not going to list names. You're going to do a dedication plaque and then another plaque that basically doesn't say anything.
Well, I would say everybody that contributed to make this project happen, it'll have the big date on it. But
I'm okay with either. I don't care. I don't. If we're gonna do a second plaque, I think you put the names of the people, the architect, everything on it. If we're not gonna do a second plaque, we can handle everything on one plaque. But I'm fine.
Understand your point. Yeah, understand your point.
It seems like we're spending money just to spend money, and if we're gonna do it, let's do it. If we're not gonna do it, let's not do it.
Oh, John, this is Joe. I've been doing this for 35 years, and it's not unheard to have plaques, one, naming who the building is going to be named after, and then acknowledging the building committee and the MSBA for their contribution towards that, as well as, the architect and OPM. I mean, it's standard procedure. Now, Bridgewater may have a different allocation of how their standardization on signage is concerned, but it's not unheard of to have a sign somewhere indicating, the dedication plaque, and then somewhere acknowledging the committee's efforts. And I agree. I think, whoever was involved should be listed on it and just call it a day. But it's not, not to list it. I go both ways, where you could put a general statement and list the Bridgewater Building Committee, or you list the individuals by name. So I think you need to put a little more thought into it before you make that decision tonight.
Hey, John, this is Joe. I would agree as far as moving forward with the motion that's on the floor, as far as moving forward with 2 plaques for consideration, see what the language comes up. And as a relatively new resident of Bridgewater within the last 5 years, I would be then interested at the appropriate time to know, prior to this school building of the Raynham Bridgewater School District, what was the last school that was built, and what sort of plaques are in that most recent? So there's a little bit of an extent of having apples to apples.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, was it the high school that was the last major school?
Yes.
I honestly don't know.
The high school and then Rainham Middle School prior to that.
I don't know what the high school has. I should know, but I don't.
And then let me add to that, as far as that is named after a person.
I believe in the high school, lobby, it's lists all the school building committee members and town councils, town selectmen, et cetera.
Okay. All right, well, the motion was to take a 2-plaque approach. And it was seconded, so unless there's any further discussion, I guess we would take the roll.
John,
Yes.
Michael,
Oh,
Lil,
No,
Mark. Mark,
Sorry, yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Joe.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
All right, thank you.
John, can I add one thing? When we did it at Southeastern, we had a shorter project. It was only 3 years. But we went back and we did the school committee that was on for all 3 of the years, and the building committee that was in place. And we couldn't do town officials because it was a regional school district. So there were 9 communities, so we couldn't do that. So we had the architect and everything. I'll try to get a picture of that plaque for the committee.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you. Gene, was that it for the designer update? I think it was. No? Oh, no, you have, are we gonna move on to item 8, approval of bacon payment requisition, or do you have more, Gene? Or John?
Jean, you're muted.
Sorry, I had one other thing, and I wanted to see if I can just find it. I'm sorry, here. So out in front of the building, I don't know if you all remember, but there's a flat roof out front, right, over the gym and the calf. We have a cistern, which was modeled after one that we saw down in New Bedford, and it's going to collect rainwater, right? And then the water will be part of the outdoor education for the kids. You know, they'll deal with the water cycle or however it's going to work in the curriculum. So we have this outdoor classroom set up, and then we have this cistern that's going to be in front of the building. And what I wanted to show you was that cistern is going to be right here. It's going to flow down a sluice, and there'll be outlets that go into water some of the planting. It'll keep going and it'll water more planting down here. There'll be a valve on it so the teachers can open and close it as they see fit. And if there's any overflow coming off the roof, it'll just make its way down through this trough. I'd gone through with Dennis. Originally, we owned a very tall one. Dennis smartly, in my opinion, said, I don't want kids up there and getting kids up on the roof. So we're going with this one that's still fairly sizable. I mean, that's a woman there. And we're in the process of picking colors right now that go with the playground. So I just wanted to, remind people that this is a feature that's part of the playground. And, I think it's going to be very cool, but I just didn't want people to say, oh, what's that silo there that shows up,
You did that at Hannigan?
That was at Hannigan, the one that was the inspiration, Joe. Yeah.
Yeah, I did that one over at the Hannigan school with that group.
Yeah. So I think Derek had seen it and other people that had gone to tour that school. So, there's no real decision to be made. I was just like, oh yeah, I forgot that we had this thing here. And I just wanted people to kind of get a sense for it, when it shows up, what it is and why it's there. right? So this is, if you were coming in from like kind of the front door into the upper playground, this is approximately the scale of it. It's actually, I think, going to be a little bit shorter than this, but that's all. I just wanted people, they're starting to install playground equipment. They're supposed to this week. Correct me if I'm wrong, Alyssa. And, we're just selecting the color on it so that it could be ordered. It's not going to show up for a while, but it is part of that whole playground package. So that's all, John.
All right, thank you. Any questions for the designer update?
Great.
All right, item 8. Approval of Bacon Payment Requisition number 16.
I'll make a motion to approve Bacon Payment Requisition number 16 in the amount of $2,852,703.
Matt Rushton will second that.
Any discussion? All right, we'll take the roll.
John,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Lil,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes,
Patrick,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Joe.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Thank you. Item number 9, approval of Bacon change order number 13. And this includes the items that Gene went over in his memo during the designer update.
It's the 55,000
55.
to 9016.
Any discussion, further discussion on this? All right, someone want to make a motion? The value of the change order is $55,290.16.
John, I can't, is this all the change orders in one vote?
Yes. You want me to list them?
No. I'm just trying to. So I'll make a motion to approve the
Number 13.
change order number 13, yes.
Is there a second?
Matt
I'll
Rushton will
second.
second.
okay.
Thank you. We'll take the roll.
John,
Vote, sorry. Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Lil,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes,
Patrick,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Joe.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Thank you. Item 10, report of the communication group.
Yep, as Alyssa and Derek have mentioned, the Taxpayer Tour will be held on August 27th from 9 to noon, 9 a.m. to noon. We will have sections of the building open for people to tour, some classrooms. All of this is done before the teachers start putting up nameplates and stuff for the kids, because we don't want people walking around the building with any identifiable information for the students for safety and security reasons. So that will be, again, 8/27 from 9 to noon, and it's open to anyone, any taxpayer in the town of Bridgewater. And then the ribbon cutting ceremony, as Alyssa and Derek, it's September 10th. It's a Saturday, 9 a.m. And that is, it will be invite only. We've started to pull that list together. And formal invitations will go out as they did via an Evite. There will be some formal invitations printed for the Mitchell family, as they will all be there. All will be invited and have been told the date already and asked to hold it. The one thing I will just sort of add, and something Lil and I have heard from folks, is people were upset that they weren't invited to the groundbreaking. There was no groundbreaking for this building, just as a reminder to folks. We did not have one because of COVID. So there wasn't one to be invited to. We did have a topping off ceremony, obviously a very different ceremony than a groundbreaking. So that list of invites was much, much smaller. So those are the two big things. The website continues to be updated. And I would encourage everyone, we did get someone posted on the Facebook page, a question. They were directed to the email address and proclaimed that that was a stupid suggestion. We are not engaging on Facebook. That is not where we will answer questions. We have not answered questions there in 7 years. We're not going to start now. So people can email the Bridgewater School Project at gmail.com, which they have been doing and can continue to do until the project is over, and we will respond to it. Either myself or Lil will respond directly or send it off to Alyssa and the CHA team for response, depending on what it is. So that, I think, Lil, did I miss anything?
Nope, you covered it all. Thanks, Mike.
So John, can I ask Mike and Willa a question?
Sure.
So are we actually calling it the Taxpayer Tour, or is that just what you're calling it to us?
No, Bridgewater resident Bridgewater residents. I did it today. I think.
Oh,
it
no,
was-
that's good, because just a taxpayer, a resident may not be a taxpayer, you know what I mean? So I just. wanted to
Right.
make- All right, good, thank you.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Things are coming together.
They are. Oh, and the other big thing about the groundbreaking or the ribbon cutting is Mitch the Monster will be there. The school's new mascot. So that's a big deal. So.
Make sure he gets an invitation.
It's going to be me.
Uh-oh.
No, it's not. For all the kids that are watching this at home, Mr. Dolan is not Mitch the Monster.
Hey, there's better things on Netflix to watch than this meeting. Come on.
All right, item 11, the next Mitchell Elementary School Building Committee meeting. So it's currently scheduled for the 13th of June. And that's fine. I just didn't know if we feel there's any need to plan now for any extra meetings. And if so, we should probably pick a date. What does everybody feel? I mean, maybe it's the CHA team, what they think if there's some critical point where a month turnaround wouldn't be quick enough, or the ability for the committee to arrange a special meeting, if that would ever create a hardship in procurement or anything that would directly support the opening of the school functionally.
So John, this is Joe. I would think that you could make a decision at the next meeting to be able to go, if you needed to, every couple of weeks as we move towards the completion of the project. There are going to be some critical decisions and time-oriented, at least conversations that we need to have prior to the school opening. And I think if we make weeks, like the last few weeks prior to the building getting turned over, it's going to be helpful for all.
Okay, so you're thinking we can kick the can till next meeting?
I would agree.
John's talking in my ear. Even if you cancel it at the next meeting, he's suggesting that you pencil one in for June 27th. Since the substantial completion is scheduled to be, a week or two later. And, you could always, if there's nothing to, well, whatever. But John, that's what you're suggesting, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's always something. There's always something. So.
Yeah, that's what I'm suggesting. I think the month of June, you could schedule one after the middle of the beginning of the month's meeting. That would be towards the end of June, so.
Okay, so we could, I don't know what the committee wants to do. We could go ahead and just schedule that now. I guess we could wait also because we'd have the window to still do the public notice, but making sure people are available is my interest. Does anybody have an opinion?
I think June 27th is a good idea because it's before, you're getting into July, and just put that on. And if we cancel it, we don't need it, we cancel it.
Okay, I mean, I'm open to that. Do we need a vote or we just schedule it? I mean, it's just, I don't know if we need a vote or not.
Just schedule it.
Okay.
Do we think we need a vote?
Sorry, John. No,
John, I think you could just schedule it.
Okay, all right.
Sorry.
Yeah, why don't we just schedule it then and revisit it next week, next meeting, and I think that'll get us covered. And then next meeting we could talk about additional meetings later in the summer.
And then John, I not to interrupt, I apologize, but so John is also, and I think Alyssa had mentioned that there was some stuff going on Wally Kruger Way that I can't remember if you've done new business yet. I just want to make sure we get to it.
No, we haven't.
No, that's actually the next item.
Oh,
Number
okay.
12.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
Apologize.
So new business, if anybody has any.
You want to start out, John?
It's up to them. That's a-
Yeah,
step
yeah.
on
Yeah.
them.
Sure.
All right, so we actually talked about this at the OAC meeting last week, last Tuesday. With the impending work on Wally Kruger Way, it was discussed that we have no idea what the condition of that road is. The intent has always been to reconstruct Wally Kruger Way to the entrance of the senior center as a brand new road. And then from the senior center, past the Conant Center, past the pumping station, out to Route 18, we were going to just, what they do a lot of places is you grind the top inch and a half, and you put a full overlay on it, and it gives you a 15-year road, as long as the substrate is viable. They ground the road today, and we found a number of areas where the asphalt was very, very thin, and it's going to require some remedial work to clean it up, get a little thicker asphalt in there, and then put the finished paving over. Still a 15-year road, not a 30-year road. They're going to have to spend some money to do that. I have an upside price in the 25,000 range. I personally think it's going to cost around 10, 12 when it's all said and done. They need to do that remedial work sooner than later for two reasons. One, we don't want to get a lot of rain and water on it. And two, we need to get that Wally Kruger Way done so it's not a disturbance for the senior center and the adjacent neighbors. I don't know how you want to handle it. I'm confident that if I talk to the contractor tomorrow, they will do the work, knowing that we will advocate for getting them paid for it. But if the committee thinks we need to do some kind of formal vote not to exceed, then that's possible. But this is something that we've all discussed since the very beginning, that this would be the bus exit. And even though it wasn't going to be a brand new road, it would be viable for a good amount of time. So this is something that will ensure that viability for 15 years. So I don't know how you want to act on it.
John, can I ask John a question real quick?
Sure.
So John, are we spending money, not that wisely by just fixing it and getting 15 years out of it when we got to do this remedial work anyway? Are we better off just to reconstruct the whole thing?
Well, if you reconstruct it, you're talking, we just priced this another job. It was like $85,000 for that kind of area. I from the very beginning, we could never have recommended that kind of money, knowing that it was a public street and not really limited to the site. I mean, we did it to make it viable because it became a bus exit, but I'm just not sure.
Well, it's kind of your choice. I mean, if you think, it sounds like we could do it.
We certainly could.
But you're sitting on a lot of unused contingency.
But you're actually.
But if the town's going to be faced with redoing it again in 15 years, which isn't that long of a time.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm not sure I could ever advocate for school money to do a public street reconstruction. I just don't know if we can do that. So I'm trying to.
But it's for the access to that building.
Correct.
It's for the exit of that building.
Yep.
It's for the use of the building, but it is a public street.
So we're essentially doing half the road over now, brand new construction that'll last 30 years. And the other half of the road, we're just going to mill down and get 15 years out of it. Now we're going to spend additional money, but we're still only get 15 years out of it. Why wouldn't we just reconstruct the whole thing and get 30 years out of it?
I don't disagree with you, but I'm just trying to present with the situation we're faced with based on what our original contract called for to do. So it's an easy decision to just fold, grind, overlay it, down 8-10 inches, grind it up, and you just put the material back down, you compact it and grade it, and you put a new road in. But it will be expensive.
John,
John, I have the same concerns that Pat does. I was under the impression from early on this project that roadway would be replaced out to Route 18 in an effort to support
never the case.
traffic.
Never.
That particular driveway was town built. I wouldn't even consider it a roadway. So I'm not surprised with the type of base that they found out there. I don't know that I have a strong argument with what I'm hearing about using funds from the school. That is a driveway that's been planned to be the driveway exit of the buses. And I would prefer, given the contingency that we have, that we make that roadway right for the school and for the heavy weight of the buses leaving, then we have to deal with it in a few years from now.
Yeah. Again, I'm only presenting what we're faced with and the
But if you want
the less expensive option. If you want to go with a full grind and rebuild the road, it certainly can be done.
John, if I could.
Sure.
This would be either bill, whether it's the 10,000 or 85,000, is all on the taxpayer. MSBA is not going to cover any of this, correct?
I'm sure, because I'm sure you spent more than 10% of the building cost.
You are correct. It's 8, they're not gonna pay more than 8% of site costs, so you've already spent that.
Very good. Thank you.
I can implement either suggestion. It's at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning and see what it takes to do that. And get that priced, because it's certainly something we would have to price. I would not leave that to a guess on my part. I would want to make sure that someone measured it the way they're supposed to measure it and provided us with a firm proposal on this.
John, if I could do another follow-up, this is to Pat and Matt. Do we have the authority to make that decision as a school building committee? I feel like the school building committee is now making your roadway decision for the town of Bridgewater. I just want to make sure we have that authority to do that, and we aren't going to get pushback or slapped for that. That's all. So I defer to Matt and Pat for that.
I think it's access, right? So you need to have adequate access. It needs to be safe, and we've committed to replacing it already. All we're doing is replacing it correctly. I mean, we could ask Michael Dutton, or the DPW director, and get a price and meet again next week.
Again, I just want to make sure we aren't going to get the pushback of you've overstepped your authority as a school building committee. That's all. That's why I asked the question.
Guess I would ask through John to Jean, the timeline that we need in order to get the roadway paved and get back. I mean, I could get an answer from the town manager probably tonight, but I view it the same way Pat's viewing it, is just making right something that has been part of the plan. It may not have been discussed about this section of the roadway, but it's certainly been the exit point for the buses since the beginning. And having traveled on the road quite frequently, it's the road is kind of a mess, and I'd just rather do it right than the school coming back to the town complaining that we have issues in a few years.
Yeah, I guess listening to everything, I was just wondering to myself, if someone made a motion to approve, reconstruction of the road not to exceed, right? Subject to an agreed upon price with RDA and CHA, not to exceed 100,000. I'm just being conservative, and also subject to approval, by the town manager that you're able to do it, something like that. You know what I mean? Because the road's ripped up right now. It's not raining this week, but if it starts to rain and we get a whole bunch, the ground's going to get all soft and it's just going to be a mess.
Well, has the DPW director or the town engineer been consulted?
No, because this just came up at 1 o'clock this afternoon.
So my thought is, I don't feel comfortable voting $100,000 change order on a public comment item, a new business item rather, especially without the town manager. That's just me. I mean, and I understand where we're at and how we got here. But I had a question for John. John, are there any unintended consequences? Really isn't a right term, but if we had set out from the get-go to repave the whole road like we're talking, would we have done anything differently? Like, are there drainage structures that are failing that now we're going to spend $85,000, put down a new road, and then in 2 years they're going to have to dig that drainage up because it's at the end of its usable life? I'm just using it as an example. That might
Our
be
knowledge that the drainage is adequate and working. We repaired under this contract all the sanitary sewer issues for the discharge from the new elementary school right to the pump station. the only thing that hasn't been touched in that road would be a water line. But we've looked in all the structures and, you know, because we checked that to make sure they were viable before we actually started putting a lot of heavy machinery on it. So we feel comfortable that the drainage is fine. Although there may be factions in the town that feel that it's not fine. And I mean, these are the kind of things you have to ask when you talk to Mike Dutton, you know, what's the condition?
Right.
In a Bridgewater planning, was it scheduled to be rebuilt next year anyway? I can't answer those questions, but we feel that the substructure is viable. It's the wearing surfaces that are not what they should be.
So my thought is, it sounds like it's the right thing to entertain. It's just the business part of it. I don't know how others feel, but I just don't think we can take a vote with a not to exceed on something that's totally new scope. Although I think we could ask the team to get you know, an estimate of that expanded work so that we could have something to vote on at the next meeting or meeting if we have to schedule it next week. But, you know, that's my thought. I don't know how others feel.
It won't survive until the next meeting, the next scheduled meeting, that's for sure. There will be complaints that it just, the areas of the road that don't have asphalt on it now are just gravel because of the thinness of the asphalt when we ground it up. So right now it's going to be like driving on a dirt road. So it can wait a small amount of time, but I don't believe it can wait an extended period of time given any seriously inclement weather. I think that's doing the people that are on that road a disservice if we let it go too long. So
The other thing to consider as well is the senior center. They have pretty large events scheduled for Thursday and Friday where they're having upwards of at least 50 cars and more there. And we did struggle with difficulty getting this coordinated in the first place and getting in the production slot. So if we don't take action on the asphalt decision, I'm not sure when's the next available scheduled date for us. So that work may be unintentionally pushed off based on the subcontractor availability too.
So can I ask a question? I mean, the way this was just described to me is the contractor created an untenable situation.
Ooh,
Why was that allowed to happen?
I'm not sure that I mean, you don't know until you actually do the work, John.
Well, why wasn't the work stopped before it compromised the function of the senior center? I mean, I don't understand civil, I get it, but I mean, it's all of a sudden here, we got $100,000 change order we got to approve on the spot.
John, that's not what we asked for. We asked to clean up the mess that was made and to put the contract overlay on that.
Okay.
That's what we asked for. We did not ask for a complete.
Okay, you're right, John. I lost track of that. You're right.
So, I mean,
thanks for correcting me.
The work that was done was required to be done. The repair that is required from that work is not a huge deal.
Right. I got it.
And the work is scheduled to be completed tomorrow and Wednesday. If they can do the repairs tomorrow and they can still put their finished paving down on Wednesday. And that still keeps us with the schedule and what the scope of work was originally laid out to be.
And you're thinking that you've heard that's up to 24,000, but you think it's more like 10?
Only because I think they've overestimated the amount of work they have to do. That's my opinion. So
okay.
I think.
Dean, could I just jump in? I did talk to Michael Dutton.
Sure.
So I just got off the phone with Dutton. I apologize. I stepped out of the meeting for a couple of minutes. In Michael's opinion, repairing the roadway is not out of the scope of this project. And he feels as though, because it's been identified from the beginning as an exit way, that there'd be some responsibility, because otherwise the town of Bridgewater wouldn't have been doing anything to this roadway at all had it not been for the construction of the school, and would support the increased funding to just make the roadway right.
As a full construction or as a 15-year solution?
So the 15-year solution, we're talking 20,000, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So we're talking about, as I think I heard numbers being discussed, and I know John's not comfortable with it, but setting some sort of cap that's higher, near the 8,500,000 range.
I'm just confused what Michael Dutton is supporting. That's all.
Right, I am too, Matt.
Sounds like either. Is that?
What he's supporting is making the roadway right. So when we're talking about the 20,000 being 15-year life, by seeing there's some base issues, he'd rather spend the money now to make that roadway right. And if I understand it, we're going down deeper in the base in order to clean up the road and support it.
Okay.
John, through you, Matt, is there any way he can hop on the meeting before we make any type of decision?
Sure, let me see if he can call into the meeting.
Please, yes.
So while we're waiting, so John, I think I confused the issue a little bit there. But as a minimum, you are asking us to act on extra work, whether it's the full, I'll just call it the full rebuild versus the additional original, the expanded original scope.
Yes.
Because of the discovery.
I was just trying to present to you a way to get it to what it would always have been per our contract with,
right,
contract. So if we want to expand that scope of work, then we need to get into that process with them and have them expedite it and get it done and get it rescheduled as soon as possible. There are some logistic issues there.
Sure.
That unfortunately have to be dealt with.
All right, I just sent a message to Josh. I'm not sure who the host is, but Mike's trying to jump in on the meeting.
Thanks,
I don't
Matt.
see him. Oh, there we go.
Michael, you with us? My symbol shows that he's muted. There he goes.
There we go. Now you can hear me?
We can hear you. The
Oh,
entire
good.
success of this project, 7 years, $80 million rests on this phone call.
Oh, good. I've always thought my career would culminate this way.
I think Mr. Rushton gave you a heads up. I mean, personally, I feel a little uncomfortable on the spot recommending a not to exceed change order for upwards of $100,000. But in the grand scheme of things, we just wanted to hear firsthand, what your thoughts were of the big picture on, where we end up and what we spend and how we do it.
Right. So honestly, obviously the road needs help, and we discovered that, after grinding it. My assumption, I haven't spoken to Azu or Paul or Gene for that matter, so I'm not sure, or any of the folks, about the condition of the road. My assumption is that they ground down and pieces that had not been excavated for the sewer main or the water main are showing that it's in really bad shape. the base is in really bad shape. So it has to be done. So the most expeditious way to do this, and probably the least costly in the long run, is to incorporate it as a change order and just get it done. I think that the you know, as I mentioned to Councilor Rushton, you know, I don't think it's an inappropriate change order for the school project, because but for the school, well, this is part of the school project, right? The improvement of Wally Kruger Way. And honestly, but for the school project, we wouldn't have touched Wally Kruger Way for, you know, probably another 5 or 10 years. And even then we probably would have done just an overlay. So we're in a position now where we've got to do some kind of improvement. I think if we can incorporate it, as I said, into the school project, it's going to be a less costly and more expeditious way to do it. If we have to, you know, we could, you know, do a piece of it as a Chapter 90 project, but honestly, that's going to require us, you know, getting all the paperwork together, filing it with Mass DOT, waiting to get approvals back, and by then, you know, the school will be open and ready to go. So, you know, just my take. It comes out of the, you know, it's one way or the other. It's going to come out of taxpayer pockets. So, you know, again, I guess my bottom line, my take would be that better incorporate it into the project in the interest of getting this project finished as on time as possible, and then get the school open. So that's, I guess that's my 2 cents for what it's worth, probably 2 cents.
No, that's good. I mean, it helps put it in perspective for me. Lil, did you have any questions? Or anything in particular you wanted to address?
No, he answered my question. I wanted to know if it was in the town's 5-year plan. I also wanted to comment, as he did, that one way or another, it's coming out of the taxpayers' pockets. So it's a question, do we do it now or do we do it later?
John, can I ask John Batecki and Michael Dutton a question?
Sure.
So I definitely think we should fully reconstruct it. I mean, if we're going to reconstruct half the road anyway, and putting a Band-Aid, so to speak, on the other half doesn't seem to make sense. But in addition to getting a price to do it before we authorize the work, I would imagine, Mr. Dutton, that you want the DPW director, Mr. Antonero, involved to some degree, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I'd asked a representative to be out just to observe the grinding. I don't know if anybody was out there, but I'd hoped we'd get somebody out there so we would have a heads up as quickly as possible as to the condition of the base. But regardless, however we move forward, absolutely, DPW should be involved. And I will say that the last thing I really would want to do, and I've been consistent about this in all the projects we do, I definitely don't want to do well, I can't say it here, but do a halfway job. I mean, if we're going to do a project, let's do the project right, and see it right through to completion. I really don't want to see us sort of approach it in fits and starts and do it that way. If we're going to do it, let's do it once and do it right, and absolutely have DPW involved in some oversight there. Absolutely.
All right, well, thank you. Does anybody else have any other questions? So I need some help if we want to go forward. What is the next step and what are we going forward on?
Oh, it
So,
makes
John,
sense.
do you want them to get prices and commitments and meet in a week just for 20 minutes to approve it? Or do you want to have a motion not to exceed? But then if it exceeds, then we have to come back anyway.
Yeah, I think the right thing to do is, Pat, is to get the quotes and a schedule right now, a meeting for next week, even if it's brief, to go ahead and approve it. That way there's no question as to about the cost and what we're looking at. If we're just coming back, we can get it posted now and just have a quick agenda.
Can the team get all that done in a week, pricing and everything?
Yeah, we're just gonna tell them we need it.
Well, they have an incentive to give it to you, right? So. Okay, so the motion would be to,
John,
Well-
is there even a motion required? We're just asking Gene and his team to go back and come back to us with a quote by a set date next week for our meeting.
yeah, you're right. Maybe we don't need a motion. The new business that's on the table, though, and I need somebody to help me out. John raised the concern, of a field condition that was discovered today. So I guess respecting RDA and John's opinion, do you see any significant risk other than a rainstorm coming, John, for us to take this path and come back in a week?
The only issue is rain, and the worst that would happen there is we would have to pay the site contractor, who's on the site anyway, to rush out there and take some of the wet gravel out and fill it with stone or dry pack or something. There might be some maintenance that we have to do in the interim to keep it viable for as long as possible.
And you would just react to that, right? You play it by ear and react.
The super on the site would know that part of this whole thing is if there's an issue with rain, weather, can't drive it, or you got to go out and send someone out there and spend a couple hours and clean it up and fix it up. What is ground and has a viable substrate is viable to drive on. It's not a problem. It's just there
Okay.
are spots and areas and old trenches that weren't bound correctly. I actually peeled the asphalt off with my foot today in some places. They ground it, but it came right up. You can lift it up with your hand and a shovel. So where it's solid, it's solid. Where it's not, it has a potential for a rain effect, but we can just direct them to maintain it while we're doing this. All the more reason for you to hurry up and get it done so you don't have to maintain this.
So, John, if I could, instead of waiting till next week and running the risk of rain, what about Thursday? Can we get a quorum for Thursday? We can't do before that because of our 48-hour post, but could you get number by then, or is that too quick?
I don't think they'll have it by Thursday. I really don't.
All right. Okay. I just wanted to offer that up.
Yeah.
Any issue with rain and weather and whatnot. So, okay.
John, could I just ask through you to the town manager that would it make sense that we have an early morning meeting between our DPW director and to determine maybe the town could relieve the burden of weather impacts over the next week, since we own the road. It's ripped up. Maybe it would be easier for us to maintain it if there's any type of bad weather, and just kind of relieve that burden for now until we get an answer next week at our meeting. Essentially just hearing it's gravel.
Sometimes the weather event affects the people in the town with other responsibilities.
Okay.
That would be my thought. We've got people there that can do this. Again, we should, Mike Dutton, you still on?
Yep, I'm here.
Yeah, I mean, I was planning on being at the site around 8:30 tomorrow anyway. I don't know if you don't want a zoo, and is Ron Ledoux still highway?
No, Paul DaCosta took
Okay.
Ron's place.
We
So I
probably
can
should
make sure that they're there.
We probably should walk this road tomorrow between 8:30 and 9 and make sure that they're completely on board with us, anything special that they may want
All right.
while we're
Oh,
doing it.
Yep, no, absolutely. And I think to Matt's point, it's better to have you talk directly to DPW just about whatever short-term maintenance may be required or may not be required, and have that communication there. So I'll make sure somebody's there tomorrow morning at 8:30.
All right, well, I'll text you my phone number to make sure you have it.
Okay, great.
Ron had it, and I thought Azu had it, but I don't know. I'm sure I'm not on the top of their contact list, so. And I don't want to be perfectly honest. And the only other question I would have would be Joe Sullivan, Mike McNulty, Alyssa. What do you want to be there other than John Feely? Is just Joe, do you need to be involved with this? What do you want to do?
Well, I'd like to at least see it, but I trust Alyssa and John Feely's observations, and I can catch up with them tomorrow.
Okay, so I'm planning on being on the site at 8:30. And we can play it by ear with the town officials. If they call me, I'll be there. I can walk down. It's an easy walk to get to the Wally Kruger from the building, so.
John, if you could take some photos associated with that once you do have your findings, just so that we have something to show the building committee if there's any questions moving
Yeah,
forward.
I think John Feely took some pictures later this afternoon when it was complete. All the pictures I have were about a third done, but I could see what was going to happen. I could tell what was up, and
I'm talking about tomorrow, that's all.
yeah, I will take more tomorrow, but just. And I'll be there all day for our OAC meeting and all that, so it doesn't. I'm the whole day in Bridgewater tomorrow, so if they can't make it early in the morning, Mike, that's fine. I'll meet them in the afternoon.
All right, well, I will plan on having somebody there around 8:30 in any case, and if not, then they can contact you, John, by cell and coordinate something for tomorrow.
All right, so again, I don't know what the committee wants to do. I'll start the contractor on pricing sooner than later.
All right, and we'll plan to schedule a meeting for next Tuesday.
Mike, John was just asking me for your phone number. I'm not sure you want to give out your cell now, but.
Oh, that's, everybody has it, so.
What, is it 0919 or is that town hall?
No, that's town hall. It's it's 1658 if you have that number, but.
No, I don't.
All right, it's 508.
Yeah.
627.
Okay.
What was it?
627
1658.
1658. Okay, got it. Thank you.
John or Alyssa, when that comes before the committee, if somebody could just have a site plan and highlight what we're talking about when we vote on it, that would be helpful for me.
I'll take care of it.
Thank you.
I actually have to do a plan for them to accurately price it, but I can get them started.
Yeah, that sounds great.
But I will do what I need to do to make this happen.
All right,
John,
well, thank you. Yes, Lil?
John, is there a reason we can't have a meeting Monday? Would you have it by then, do you think, John?
I can't tell. I'm going to stress to them how important it is for them to put a pencil down on another job and take care of this so that they're not plagued with the maintenance of this road for too long. So I'd like to think we could do it Monday and I could have it before that, but until I speak with Bacon, I can't promise anything.
Well, you can schedule it. You can always cancel it.
Mm-hmm. Can we schedule one for Monday and Tuesday and just cancel one of them?
It's up to you.
Yeah, however
Lily, are you not available Tuesday?
No, I am. I just was trying to get it done sooner rather than later.
Oh, okay.
I just don't, I know I won't get a price in 2 days, but I can tell them that I need it by Friday night is what I can tell them. And we can see where it goes.
All right, well, I mean, I'm available either night, or both nights.
Need to make,
So what do you think, Michael Dolan?
we just need to make sure we're gonna have a quorum. So if, Lil and you are available, I'm available. We need to find out from the rest of the committee if they're available.
I'm available Monday night.
That's 4.
I mean, we're only talking 20, 30 minutes, correct?
Yeah. Mark,
I'm
how about
available.
you? Sorry, Mark, you're on mute. I think
Sorry,
you're
I'm available.
Monday. Matt, how about you?
Yep, Monday or Tuesday, I'm fine.
Who else is on?
This is Scott. I'm available.
Okay, perfect.
And this is Joe. I should be available as well.
Okay, perfect. Then John. quorum.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is Scott. I should be able to be available, but I should be able to. Put me down as tentative, sorry.
We have a quorum either way, Scott. So if you can't, don't stress.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Thank
And are
you.
we thinking 6:30?
Sure.
Okay. So Josh, can you schedule 2 meetings, Monday and Tuesday for 6:30?
Yeah, no problem. If somebody just wants to send me an agenda, I'll get it formatted and sent in.
Thank you.
I can do that.
All right, thanks for navigating our way through there. So I think that was it for new business. The next item is public comment. I don't see any public comment. The last item is adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
All right, well, thank you, everybody. We'll take the roll.
John,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Lil,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Matt,
yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Joe.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved. The meeting is adjourned.
Good evening.
Thank you.
Right.